morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be joining or streaming. This is um, the F word, follow-up trends in real estate. And I'm your host, Sara Delansig, and my co-host will be here shortly. She has some tech difficulties. That blue screen of death is giving her some fits. And it's a new laptop too, so I have the same issue though. I bought a laptop off of Amazon and it was like a unknown brand, and all of the sudden it started giving me that blue screen of death too, but I just turned it off and turned it back on. Good morning, Angel. I'm so glad you are here. So good to see you. Since I last saw you at the EXP um, regional rally, where I totally sat with you guys and uh, joined your little MVP table,
It was
VIP.
fun. I'm
It
so
was
glad
so
you
fun.
sat with us.
I know it
What's
was
my
fun.
question?
Yay, Heather is here. Hey, Heather.
This is the challenge of having children that touch my stuff.
Oh, I was gonna say, like I was just saying, I bought a laptop that's like an unknown brand off Amazon that didn't have everything, and then it gives me that blue screen of death every once in a while, and I don't know how I get around it, but somehow I do. So sometimes it's not children, sometimes.
Oh no, mine decided to play Roblox. And the last time, remember when I told you I had to buy a new computer?
Uh-huh. It was, oh,
I was like, Kenzie, you're not allowed to touch my stuff anymore. She's
I
like,
know
I
that
just,
was like
um,
one of the things I had to teach my son was like, don't download anything. Don't open strange emails. Actually, I got an email from his school yesterday that was like, your son may have got a phishing email from us that was a job opportunity. I'm like, oh, great. Got
cool.
a $1,000 computer that he wanted for Christmas. And if it gets messed up, I'm gonna be really mad.
Hmm.
But he shouldn't have been doing that on his home laptop anyway. All right, so today's topic is we're going to talk about follow-up mistakes that agents still make. And this is focusing kind of on hot leads, but I want to adjust it so that we're not just talking about hot leads because a lot of agents, you know, aren't getting the hot leads. And I consider hot leads to be referrals, obviously, would be top. Well, like, yeah, probably referrals would be the hottest, right? And then people that are, reaching out to you, finding your information, sign calls, people looking you up online and like trying to reach out to you or through your YouTube videos or something like that. And let's see, and Zillow, which is so crazy because well, we'll get into it. So, okay. So, hot leads are expensive, rare, and they are often wasted. So, most agents think that they have a lead problem when they really usually have a follow-up problem. That is a quote that I say often on this podcast. So, today we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes that agents are still making with hot leads and other leads and how to fix them. All right. So, I'm going to share a little story and then I'm going to ask Heather if you want to share a story of a time where you had a hot lead request info or something like that um and then, they just completely ghosted you and how you
Ah.
handled it. All right. Because this literally happened to me on Monday. Monday, I take a Zillow call and I schedule, and it was actually one of those Zillow leads that's like, oh, they're not, they didn't answer when we called. So I called the guy and he's like, yeah, I want to see the home. And it's kind of like an investment property. And the guy's like, yeah, I can see it, tomorrow at this time. So I sign it to the agent, do the intro, they all get together. Then the guy stops talking. And so the agent is like, does this time still work for you? The guy finally responds like probably 18 hours later. And he's like, can we push it to noon instead of 11:30? And then the agent is like, sure. And then the agent is like, I'm on my way out there. Are we still good? Nothing. Crickets. All right. Okay. Well, you're about 5 minutes later. Are you on your way? Crickets. The guy doesn't respond. So nothing isn't, yeah. So, I mean, there's a way to continue to engage because a lot of times, the way you handle it can depend on whether or not they're going to continue to want to work with you. Because if you shame them or give them a hard time or something like that, they may already feel bad for doing it and you don't know what happened, right? I also had another situation kind of similar and I handed it off to the agent and the agent couldn't get a hold of the guy. And so she was like, "Can you call this guy?" Because it was a same day tour. And so when I called him, he answered and I was like, "Oh, the agent was trying to reach you." And he said, "I was in the shower." You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I couldn't answer in the last hour, but he did want to see the home within a few hours. So it was kind of crucial, but still, things happen. You know what I mean? So we're going to talk about how to handle them so that um, they're not so embarrassed about the situation that they don't want to talk to you again and they just would rather find another agent because Zillow's not the greatest, but it does send those people back to you if they request a tour or something again. So sometimes they don't know that.
And they think they're clicking on something else.
Yeah. So Heather, have you had a situation like this where you have had a hot lead kind of ghost you? I'm sure you have.
I would say, honestly, I think it happens more than I would, I don't want to say care to admit, but it happens a lot. And I think it's because leads are super excited in the moment when they're talking to you, and then they get off the phone, and then reality sets back in, and they're like, well, shit, if I sell, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. And then they talk themselves out of it. And then, like you said, they're either too embarrassed and it's just easier to ghost because, people don't like confrontation. And
Hmm.
I now I do a really good job of like um intent, right? We talk about setting appointments with intent. So, if for whatever reason you change your mind, that's okay. Just let me know. And then I tell them about other people that have ghosted and how frustrating it is for me to chase them and how I don't want to do that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like you're doing me more of a disservice. Like I don't want to call you 10 times. If you don't want to hear from
Yeah.
me, just say that. I'm a
Just
big
say
girl.
that.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
that's
it
great.
definitely it definitely helps, but I mean it still happens, but not nearly like it used to. So
Well, that's good. No, I hadn't thought of that, but I hadn't thought about like explaining to them how frustrating that can be and like giving them that out up front and being like, hey, rather than ignoring me, because that does happen quite often,
hmm
you know what? Like, just tell me. And if you give them the permission to tell you, that's probably going to make it
they will.
easier. And then they're probably also going to have more more of a chance that they reach out to you because you're not pressuring them into anything. You're not trying to manipulate them into anything. So I definitely like that. All right. Well, let's see what my notes on this topic say because I got to go back to the other screen. Sorry. Sometimes I write these things like a week before, sometimes the night before, sometimes I forget what I was going to talk about and we just got to roll with whatever I wrote a week ago.
I
So
just slide on the seat of my pants. I'm just like, yep, we get there.
yeah. Well, sometimes it works best that way because then you like don't have to rely too much on it. But yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so sometimes people do lose interest. Or the agent will fail to follow up, and then people may get frustrated with that and not want to talk to you. That is a whole different way to handle things. And I have all the kinds of stories about agents that didn't um, contact people on time. But mistake number one would be for hot leads is responding too slowly. Okay, so speed is still tops in this. I would say speed to lead is a real thing. And it is important because, like Heather said, intent fades fast. Their mind is on it while they're doing it. But, 5 minutes later, the kids might be running around and they might, be off to something else, more than likely, especially people with busy lives and that sort of thing. So, if someone reaches out while they are curious, then, the delay will kill the momentum. And so we don't want that. And if another agent responds first to your hot lead, that can also happen. I actually had a situation where somebody came in and they were selling three houses and it was a rare seller lead through a website and they clicked on the agent's name because it was actually a referral and they clicked the agent's name and emailed over the weekend so I wasn't in but it didn't go into the agent's name and the agent didn't know until I came in on Monday and by Monday it was too late and this person was like I didn't hear back from you and they went with another agent and had three houses that they had to list, and that agent wasn't happy with me. which normally, like I take, don't get me wrong, I take the Zillow calls on the weekends, but this was like an email and it was, and since then I'm like, we need to get if they click on the agent's face on the website, then it needs to email the agent so the agent knows too. All right, so real life examples of this, I've shared several of those, and um, there are also situations where, let's say they're like, hey, I want to know what my home is worth, and they fill it out at lunch, but it takes 6 hours to get a reply. By then they may have already spoke to another agent, especially if they're hot. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of times those what's my home worth leads may not necessarily be hot, but if you treat them all like that, then you know that you're covering your bases. You know what I'm saying?
Find your unicorn.
Yeah. Yep. You find yourself a unicorn. Go unicorn hunting. Okay, so you can use alerts, routing, auto acknowledgement, aka AI, campaigns. But this is interesting. ChatGPT even says human response is crucial. Like a same day human response is going to be the most important fix for this mistake. Okay, so you want to aim for minutes, not hours. And there are several ways to do that. And if you are in the real estate industry and you aren't aware of all the ways that you can use AI to have automations to reach out to these people so that you can be notified right away. Street Text is a great one that has a lot of that stuff integrated with it, and you can get notified and you can see it. And most lead gen sources, right, lead sources will have a way to notify you, a notification from the app, a way to get an email. I wouldn't recommend the email thing unless you are living in your email, but I personally don't live in my email. That is a rabbit hole that can take a lot of time to go through and mark everything as spam and do all the things, right? So I try to check my email first thing in the morning and when I'm done working in the evening. So email is not the best for me, but some agents live in their email and that's fine and that can work. I prefer text. I live off of text. If you want to reach me, don't call me, text me is probably the best way to do it,
That
especially
part.
because I can text. Yeah, Heather too. We can text while the phone is ringing while we're calling somebody else, and we can almost mindlessly leave a voicemail without having to think about it while texting. So, you know, that's easier for us because we're making hundreds of calls a day. All right. So, mistake number two is treating every lead the same, which I kind of touched on this at the beginning. There's referral leads, there's open house leads, there's sphere of influence leads, which are pretty much, like your family, not necessarily referral, but family and friends. And there's a Zillow lead, there's a internet lead, there's a website lead. Um, there's FISBOs, expireds. We all know, right? There's tons of different types of leads. There's cold to hot. Okay. Um, it depends on your market, what you think is cold to hot, but I have my own opinions about this, and I would consider probably FISBOs and expireds and um, REO and probate like the cold. Well, REO, I've actually had a lot of luck with that, but cold. They don't know you're reaching out. Like you don't have one-to-one consent to reach out to them. You have to make sure they're not on the do not call, that sort of thing. So, um, but you want to treat them all the same regardless, okay? You want to have your follow-up to be in a way that you are on top of it. And at least the first reach out. I will say this, I don't treat well, first of all, I don't mostly call any kind of cold calls. I don't do cold calls. I'll let Heather take that one. But for me, I do treat the Zillow leads and a lot of the other ones the same. And the first regard of when I call them and how I build trust and the way that I treat them. But the amount that I'm going to call them is different. I'm not going to call a Zillow lead 10 times, or I'm not going to call like an internet lead 10 times in the first week, whereas a Zillow lead that's once, that's communicating back and forth and that sort of thing, I'm going to call more, especially if they're, hungry. And if that seller lead, like I would call that person probably twice a day for a little bit to make sure that person was taken care of and tried, but we were too late. You know what I mean? So, Heather, how do you handle that situation with like treating all the leads the same, but also knowing that some of them are in a hot and well, this is talking about hot leads, treating them all the same. But as far as cold leads, how do you do that?
See, I feel like for me, my caller ID changes all the time.
Mm,
So I can call, it doesn't matter what type of lead I'm calling. If if I I tell the agent, like, do you want me to be super aggressive, aggressive, mildly aggressive, chill, or whatever? And then whatever they tell me, that's how I treat all of their leads. So if they're like, I want you to go aggressive AF, I'm like, bet, and then I'm calling their shit like crazy. But for me, I don't have to worry about calling a lead, 3 times in one day and them getting pissed at me because all 3 times my caller ID is different. And
Oh, see, yeah, that's interesting.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my caller ID is always the same so that people call back and they do call back. And I've had like a $5,000 closing, well, almost $5,000. But yeah, for a referral because this was a all commission client that I had at one point in time. And so yeah, so I'm like, I want them to be able to call back. So wait, what happens if they call back though? Those
They
numbers.
all come back to one line. So whether
Oh,
they call
okay.
number one, two, three, or four, it all comes back to me, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And
But do you know?
so the only time it gets really awkward is when they call me from like one number and then they go to call another number and it's still me and I know it's them and I just like, hey, this is my office
Oh.
number. You called my cell.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
But
Interesting. All right then.
mhm.
Okay. Let's see. So one of the things that you can do to fix the situation with treating all the leads the same is I kind of put myself in a position like that if they were all my best friend. Treat them like how you would treat how I would treat Heather if Heather
I was
were.
just gonna say how you treat me.
Yeah, yes. Yes, but also, have a personalized touch. There's certain things like that you can do. Um, I really love when I was first licensed. I was training with my mentor, Darcy Hardy, who is now she's now doing title. But when she was training me, we were talking about going to see homes and she would send video text and like tell them like, hey, make sure you wear the, shoes that you can walk around the property because we're in Washington State and it's very wet. And if you want to walk the property and look at the fence and see what kind of condition it's in, that sort of thing, we would, make sure that they knew don't wear high heels, like you're not going to want to walk around in your nice heels around the property. So, we might need to look under, in the basement or go up in the attic and that sort of thing. So like wear comfortable shoes. So she would send a video text with this info to everyone. And I thought that was a really nice personal touch that she put into it. And it helped them to know that she was thinking about them ahead of time and thinking about like, hey, I know you might want to look cute, but let's make sure that we're, wearing the appropriate stuff, especially if you're in luxury, because like some people I mean, depending on if they're wanting to walk the property or not, but usually you should, and depending on the kind of loan, because this was a certain kind of loan that the people had, and so we had to make sure that trees weren't, I think it was FHA, and you got to make sure, maybe it was a VA. But anyway, you had to make sure that the trees weren't touching the roof and all those sorts of things. Okay. So Heather, what are some ways that you use a personal touch on yours?
Oh, I would say whenever I get a hold of someone, I try to set myself apart from everyone else. And like you said, I treat them like a friend. I ask them, I wouldn't say invasive questions, but I get like I want to get to know everyone. And by the time I end up off the phone, they feel like, and I always get this as like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. I feel like you're the person I've been searching for. And then I'm like, oh, I hope the agent does the same thing.
Uh,
But it's like But I get a lot of calls back after, or I'll follow up after. I'll set the anticipation, like, hey, after you meet with so and so, I'll give you a call back. Let me know your thoughts. And you can be honest with me. Like, if you don't like them, there's other agents in the sea, but I really think this is going to be a good fit for you. So I generally try to show them that I'm trying to do what's best for them, and that because I don't have my license, I feel like I'm able to relate to them from a strictly consumer standpoint. And so I feel like that gives me just a little bit of an edge because they're like, okay, this girl knows my struggle. She's been there. And so it works really well for me.
I love that. See, so this is why we do this podcast because Heather and I are very different. I'm a licensed agent and she's not a licensed agent. We're both in the United States with our own ISA companies and employ in the United States ISAs and that sort of thing. But we do things very differently. And that's why we have this podcast because we're going to talk about those differences in the way that it helps us. But it's also really interesting because we both look at the positives and the strengths of it. So like you're like, because I don't have my license, this is a plus and this is what I'm going to show them. And I'm like, because I have my license, I know what it's like to be an agent and to pay for leads. And so I can look at that side of it. And both sides are right. There's nothing wrong with it, but we're choosing to look for that positive side and that positive spin on it. And I think that's really important.
Well, and I
Um,
think it shows like there's no wrong way to do this job as long as you're doing it.
as long as
Like
you're
the
doing it
only
with
caveat,
positive, okay, okay, I was going to say there is a
yes, yes, yes.
wrong way to do it.
That part I will agree with. But as long as you're doing it with positive intent,
hmm
you really you might do the wrong thing, but as long as it's for the right reason, I feel like you're gonna have
It'll
a good outcome. Hmm.
yeah, it'll all like, it'll all level out. I feel like as long as your heart is in the right place, like your intent is in the right place. But some people do it for the wrong reasons and they do it for the money and they're just super aggressive. And so that can go the wrong way. Okay, so we're on mistake number, so mistake number two is treating every lead the same. We talked about how to do that, personalized touch, referencing why they reached out, um, sharing similar stories with them that have happened in the past to help them understand where you're coming from. Okay, so mistake number three, everybody does this. As a matter of fact, it's funny that this is one because if you use the new follow-up boss or like, okay, a lot of the CRMs now have this AI generated auto text that will like generate a text for you if you click on it. And it almost is always just checking in. And I'm like, just checking in is not a great follow-up phrase. Okay. It's generic. It's not personalized. It's very it's not the greatest. So it's very like it's empty, okay? It creates no reason to respond. Just checking in, like, okay, cool, next. You know what I mean? So people ignore these messages because they offer
Or
no
this.
value.
Like that
What?
sounds very AI. So I feel like that's gonna get ignored because they think they're talking to AI.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like that's the hard part now is because a lot of people might think that the AI has the best response and this is why I create my own text templates and everything. Um, the AI doesn't realize that it said the same thing last time either. So if you try like a month later and you hit the same button, it's going to generate the same exact text without knowing that it last time already said that. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you read it. If you are using the follow-up boss or the Brivity or whatever, um, auto AI stuff, be aware. That's my suggestion. All right. So the way to fix this is that every touch should contain one of these. It should have an insight. I feel like my mic is now acting up. An insight about the community, about what's going on in the area. It should have an update or an answer or an opportunity or some kind of useful question. I think I use the useful question one the most. How about you, Heather? What do you use out of
I would
those?
say, what is an example of a useful question to you?
A useful question to me would be like, last time we spoke, you had mentioned that you are getting ready to, you wanted to get your house painted before you put it on the market. How's that going? Where are we at with that?
So you're trying to drive an intent-based question. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
I like to always, well, I guess there's several aspects of it because I'm referencing, something in the past. I'm giving them the
Yeah.
opportunity to let me know what's going on, and then I'm asking a useful question to try to get an answer. So there's a lot of those in there. And I'm asking for an update, right? So it's actually almost every single one of those. But yeah, okay. So or here's some other examples because it came up with some. The rates shifted this week. Do you want a quick update on that? Um, three homes matching your criteria. This is the one I like, is the homes that match your criteria. I always love to let people know that because it's stressful and hard to find a home that you like. What,
Yeah,
Heather?
I'd say one of the things, my favorite things to do is like when I see their searches and they've gone back to a house a few times, or I see their whatever, I'll be like, hey, I was, looking at the MLS this morning and I happened to see this address. Have you had a chance to look at it? And if so, what are your thoughts? Because they
Yep.
don't realize that we can see their activity. And so when I know you've seen this house 5 times, so clearly there's something about it. And then they'll either tell me what they love about it or what they didn't like about it. So I know where their head's at. Like, well, we do like this house, but it, basement's not finished, for example, or, this could work, but this is why. So it gives them, and then it makes them feel like we're paying attention to what it is that they need. And like, so it works out really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love it. Okay, so those are some examples of those. We are almost out of time, but I will go over let's see, mistake number 5 because I think it's really important. Well, mistake number 5 is giving up too early, and mistake number 6 is no system or mood-based follow-up, like doing it based on your mood, not based on a system or anything like that or any kind of structure. So most agents do give up too early. I've shared this in the past, this lead arc like timeline of how many calls, how many texts, how many emails, how many touches it takes to convert someone into a client from cold to transact, right? And honestly, it is like 13 plus, and this was back before um before interest rates went up and that sort of thing. So we're probably going to double that. Like you're looking at like from cold to transact, like 26 touches when you include emails, text, calls, all of that. I don't know if that and every market is different. Like I said, sometimes you get a unicorn, but Heather, what's your experience with the like how long it takes now?
I would say, and I think that's the biggest thing is like setting expectations with these because a lot of people that buy leads think that we're not doing our job because we're not getting conversions fast enough.
I know. It's like, hello, do you know how long it takes? Are you aware?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, do you walk into a car dealership and know right when you walk in that you're what car you're gonna buy? I mean, some people do, right? You're the car's uni or the dealership's unicorn. But
Yeah.
in most people are just walking to the dealership to kind of get an idea of what prices are, what car they like, what they don't like. And so, setting that expectation of this could take 6 months to a year on
Hmm.
average is huge. So when they come in and building that pipeline, but then you have the snowball effect, right? So the people that came in a year ago and we're a year into this are now starting to snowball. So you get your now business and then you get your pipeline business.
Yep.
So
And
it's
that's why it's crucial to stay on top of mind with everyone that you can. And so
being
utilize.
consistent.
Yep, and being consistent. Yep. Utilize all of the tools that are out there for you, but also don't ignore them when they're letting you know that somebody is active. So like, we can't be on top of everything without some assistance, like without some of the AI, without some of the things that are delegated to our, team or things like that. So use those, but don't ignore them when you get the notification that says, hey, this person has looked at this property 10 times. Use that as an opportunity. Hey, I saw, whatever, and go from there. So I don't want to go too far over because I know people have to get to other things, but some of the other things that I'll say that will fix giving up too early is like every once in a while you could give them a market update. You can, let them know about relevant opportunities that are out there, do a little personal check-in. And for the fact that you have no system, there are so many things out there that provide structure that can help with that. That can respond to, hire an ISA. We can help with that. So we can help with a lot of it. So and keep yourself top of mind and know how to help help you get there. Now it does take time. And every market is different, but you want your little hype man in your corner or hype woman. So that is all we have for today. Thank you guys for being here. I hope this was helpful info. And until next time, we'll be back in 2 weeks. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.